Hey guys, so it's actually seconds after I just filmed my last video, but I figured I'd take advantage of the fact that I am alone. Well, I'm with my son, he's asleep, but my wife and kids are at the new Spider-Man movie with their friends, so yeah, as I said before, this is the first chance I've had to make a video about some stuff that I'm interested in or whatever it is. And right now I'm not going to be talking about Don Quixote, obviously, because I haven't read any more of the book in the few seconds that have passed between these two videos. I wanted to make a video about something else, and it isn't something I mentioned in the last video either. It's also something I wished I could and probably should spend more time thinking about before I make a video about it, but I just don't know if I'm going to get that chance, as I was kind of touching on in the last video. So the subject of the video is about this book, Finnegans Wake, and I guess the benefits of, reaction to, an experience with reading it to my kids, my two girls that are 7 and 4. And I guess contrasting that against the reputation a work like this has, even with very literary-minded, book-loving people. I think it's telling that my kids, well, I shouldn't say my kids, isn't specifically my kids, but children are able to appreciate such a significant chunk of what this book is offering with no training or knowledge or background. It's just the pure surface pleasures of the book, and such an amazing and genuine curiosity into what makes the book more than that. So yeah, I'll just dive right into it, because this is something, so reading Finnegans Wake to my kids has been something I've been doing for a long time. We've been to Dublin together when they were young. They don't really remember it, but well, my youngest definitely would, my 4-year-old definitely wouldn't, but we've been there. James Joyce has, a name my kids know, which I made sure of, and reading this as a bedtime story every once in a while has been something I've been doing ever since they were really little, because the book is really, really funny, and they agree, and they think it's really, really funny. And I hadn't done it in a while. I hadn't done it in a long time, but I recently read the book to them, some of the book to them, the other day, and the reaction and experience of it just astounded me, honestly. With both my kids. Now my 4-year-old is older now and can actually understand the concept that I'm reading a book to them, and my 7-year-old was just so curious and so full of questions, and I think it might open up the book in maybe some ways for people, possibly, but I also think it's just enlightening to contrast it with what this book might be accused of negatively, it being mumbo jumbo, waste of time, nonsense, all that kind of stuff. So first off, really important is that it's a very funny book, and not in a secret way, in a way that kids can understand, in the way the words sound, and in the humor in the book that does come through, because it isn't impossible to understand. The layered meanings and hybrid words are, can take some decoding if you want to go that route with the book, which is one of its many, which is part of its depths. But there's also lots of parts of the book that are pretty clear what is being said, and it's funny. So, for instance, well, maybe this isn't so clear as to what's going on because it's the middle of a page, but my kids made me read this sentence 5 times, and on different occasions too, and it's just really funny. When Duke, hoekbackroek, upsits his ass boos worthies, jeer and junket, but they boos him and oos and bass his ass when he looks like hunket plunket. So there's a rhythm and a musicality to it that is like funny. Duke hoekbackroek and hunket plunket. It feels like something out of a children's book, and you don't have to be some scholar to understand what Joyce is doing with some of this language and what his point is. Another observation, no, not observation, I guess anecdote about the experience, because now I was kind of reintroducing it to them after a while, and they're older and maybe they don't remember so much what it was like before when I was reading it to them. So my 7-year-old was absolutely amazed by the thunder word, which I think is the correct response. And I don't mean from an artistic standpoint, like I'm amazed that he created that, because I get it is easy to be dismissive, like, oh, he just put a bunch of, but you know, like it's not that amazing of a, like to conceptualize 100-letter word of just like random sounds or whatever like that, of like this thunder. She was, well, first off, she was amazed in like a childlike way that that could exist. And when I read it to her, she obviously thought it was hilarious and was laughing her head off the whole time. And she took the book from me, and she was skeptical that this was like 100-letter word, and actually took the time to count every single letter. So I'm just trying to imagine like putting yourself in the headspace of like picking up this book, reading the first page, being totally baffled at what you're reading, right? But it, you know, there's obviously the sonic element. It sounds, you know, musical, funny, whatever, but you're not understanding it. And then you get to the thunder word, and you're reading it, and it is funny, and you're like, what am I reading, blah, blah, blah. And you actually take the time to count the letters to see how many letters are in this crazy word. And I just feel like, what a healthier approach to engaging with, you know, difficult art, or like, this is supposed to be a difficult book, but I'm basically treating it like a children's book to my kids right now, and they're totally getting it. Far more than many people that are literary minded I've talked to about it online. Taking the time to count the thunder word is like, to me, that's like, if an adult was doing that, that's like a true love of literature. I'm seeing someone like portray like a real curiosity and love and openness to engage with the work that I just think is rare. Too rare. Unfortunately rare. I can't even say that I'm like fully in that headspace all the time with all of the books I read, right? And then my daughter asked a question like, you know, on top of all these sounds and like that are making them laugh, and like the funny things about it, and like the fart noises or whatever, and the thunderbird, like what's the deeper, like what does it mean? She's basically like, well, what does it mean? And I started talking about, like, I have my own theory about Finnegans Wake, is that it's essentially, Finnegans Wake is montage. Finnegans Wake is like a literary type of montage. And what I mean by that is that he's written in a way where a single word has 5-6 meanings layered into it. And how I describe it to my kids, mainly to my oldest kid, is like, you say you have a word, any given word, and you have that word in English. What's that word in French? And she's French immersion, so that is helping her conceptualize this. You have that word in English, you have that word in French. Put them together. You make a new word, right? Now this word has a new aesthetic dimension. It's going to sound different. It might sound beautiful, it might sound interesting, whatever. It's a new word now, even though both words that this hybrid word is made of mean the same thing, so you know what the word means, but it's a totally new word. And then what Joyce is doing is like, he's also asking, okay, but why French and why English for this particular word in this made-up case? A deep reader is going to start asking themselves, what's the relationship between these languages and this word? Is there a relationship between them together. Like you could have picked, like for all the words in the world, right? Like maybe when you're doing the word, table, I'm looking at a table, maybe it's the English and Spanish word for table he's chosen to smush together. Maybe it's the English and French word for cup he's chosen to smush together. And there's a reason he picks those specific languages at that time. It's not arbitrary. So something being told through that. What is the meaning of these words in their respective languages, and what is the relationship between those languages to each other? Which then you would ask, what's the relationship of the countries in which those languages are spoken and their histories? And you can see how many meanings you can layer on this. And then if you actually take the time, as Joyce has done, to make those connections and layers make sense, each layer is telling you another story, or whether it's this book's plot, the history of Ireland, facts about Ireland, the history of the world, on and on and on and on and on. And getting a spam phone call. Happens all the time. So I was describing this to my daughter, and she got it. And she started coming up with her own examples. And they're mainly like aesthetic examples. But I wrote down one of them, which I thought was amazing. Amazing. A 7-year-old did this. She thought of the word route, like the route you take, and how the word for street in French is rue. So route and rue are similar letters and sounds, but two different languages. And then route, like a tree root, right? And a tree root can look like roads and routes, and so there's like 3 different words there, 3 levels of connections, 2 different languages. And she started building off this and giving out more examples like this: route, rue, street, whatever it is. And that's just off the top of a 7-year-old's head in the moment, which I think just illustrates how not like ivory tower this is, like how not closed off it actually is, or how not closed off it has to be, or how it doesn't have to be closed off to your average reader. Because once you start to get that and learn that about the book, these are things you can do yourself. Like, I'm not saying you could write, so anyone could write this book, but anyone could employ the formal tactics he's employing. I mean, with less success, with less beauty, sure, but they're not, it's not a magic trick, right? It just takes some time and effort. And if you put that time and effort in as a reader, you'll start to maybe uncover, in the case with this book, Finnegans Wake, aesthetic enjoyment you won't find in other books, sonic enjoyment, a musicality and poetry to the way the words sound, a hilarious and interesting and entertaining plot, a history of Ireland, the world, insight into the human condition, insight into connections between cultures and languages. I think it's over like 20 languages employed in this book, or something like that. History of those languages, of the etymology of specific words. You could really spend a lifetime with this book, and I intend to, and I hope my kids do too. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that if this is a book you've always looked at with maybe some disdain because it is not maybe the level of entry into it is like too opaque. Well, my 7-year-old really likes it, and I think that it's just maybe a matter of your approach and perspective to it. And you could absolutely read this book and not understand a single second of it and then still enjoy how it sounds. I think all great books do at some degree work on that level. So yeah, anyways, Finnegans Wake, James Joyce, barely scratching the surface on this book. but it was more about, I think, my experience of reading it to my kids, and maybe that might illuminate it a little bit for someone who is skeptical of it or something like that. So, yeah.